The Second Fleet tore through space-time, arriving one by one in the Helios system. Klaxons immediately blared across every ship. The Admiral's voice was steel. "All hands, battle stations." We were here. The science vessels immediately began their work, sweeping the void for any sign of the enemy. Nothing, just empty space. A tense quiet fell over the bridge. "Take us into the solar system," the Admiral ordered. "Active scans. I want to know what's out there." The fleet acknowledged, massive engines humming as we pushed deeper. You could feel the tension, the raw desire for a fight. We all saw what happened to the last task force, destroyed for nothing. This was personal. Once we secured the system, the Kaelum Guard finally had a foothold. The Admiral then waved the science vessels forward. "Get me detailed scans. I need to know if the Ramarsi are here, if they've ever been here." He paced the bridge, impatience radiating from him. We all watched, waiting for the signal, waiting for the fight to begin. The science vessels reported back after hours of scanning. The system was dead. The Ramarsi had been here, and now they were gone. The Admiral slammed his fist on the bridge railing, the metal groaning under the impact. He ordered all captains to his ship for an immediate briefing. Starcoms blared across the fleet, relaying the message. The captain on the Admiral's flagship turned to him. "A briefing, sir." The Admiral's voice was cold steel. "I want to ensure everyone is on the same page when we meet these freaks. I want to make sure we send them back to whatever hell they crawled out of." The captain smirked, his confidence renewed. "Yes, sir." As the Admiral strode towards the conference room, the other captains began to arrive, their faces grim. Once they were all assembled, the Admiral began. "I'll be brief. I want you back on your ships as quickly as possible." The Admiral addressed the captains, his voice grim. The Council's discoveries about the Ramarsi left the room in stunned silence. He then yielded the floor to the lead scientist, who began to detail the enemy's nature and their ships. The explanation was painfully technical. Suddenly, a captain interrupted. "Doc, I just need to know where they are and how to kill them." Cheers erupted from the other captains. The scientist lowered his head, defeated. The Admiral had to restore order. Another captain quipped, "Thank God for the Second Fleet, one of the oldest." Chuckles filled the room. Again, the Admiral silenced them. He stood, his gaze sweeping over every captain. "Yes, we are the smallest and oldest fleet. That means we're agile, lethal. We have weapons the rest of the fleet doesn't. When we engage the Ramarsi, our science vessels must record everything. The Council needs that data. If our railguns work, the entire fleet will need retrofitting. That takes time. I need everyone's head in the game. Right now, we are on our own." The air grew heavy. The captains, once boisterous, fell silent and straightened their postures. An uneasy calm settled over the room. The Admiral scanned each face and spoke, his voice steady. "This is what I want to see. We need level heads." The captains nodded in agreement. He dismissed them, and they filed out one by one until the room was empty, save for the Admiral and the lead scientist. The scientist hesitated and looked at the Admiral. "Sir, do you think we will win?" The Admiral paused, his gaze fixed on the dead solar system outside the viewport. "We have to," he said quietly. "If we don't, what will this galaxy become?" As the scientist turned to leave, head bowed, the Admiral stopped him. "We need you at your best, too. Without your information, we can't find them. And if we can't find them, we can't win. That will be all." The room emptied, leaving only the Admiral, who stood looking out the window, staring at the dead system before him. He turned, his footsteps echoing on his way to the bridge. "Make way for the next system," he commanded. Navigation and starcoms acknowledged, and the massive fleet began its cumbersome journey once more. The search was slow, a painstaking process of clearing each solar system one by one. On the bridge, A young officer crumbled under the weight of the task. "This is going to take forever," he muttered. The captain shot him a stern look, but the admiral remained fixed on the main viewing screen. Suddenly, his voice boomed through the quiet bridge. "Spotted something." A tiny glint of light. Almost nothing. The scanners read empty, except for a faint, odd neutrino trail. The captain didn't hesitate. "Alter course. Let's go see what that is." Starcoms relayed the new intel, and the entire fleet altered course. We moved like a predator hunting its prey, slow, methodical, precise. The admiral ordered all ships to halt as the flagship crept closer. On the bridge, the captain ordered battle stations and all rail guns ready. The klaxons began blaring, and that familiar chaos erupted again, with everyone running to their posts. As a super soldier, my squad headed for the armory to suit up in our power armor, ready for the dropships if needed. As our ship approached the coordinates, 2 enemy Ramarsi ships materialized out of nowhere. "Open fire," the captain roared. The prow cannons fired first 14 shots, ringing out at once. All but 2 hit their marks. Then they fired back. It was a direct hit. The scanner technician yelled, "Sir, they're using some kind of energy weapon." Just then, relays throughout the ship began to surge and blow. The captain's voice boomed across the bridge. "Sit rep now." The XO was quick to respond, shouting over the alarms. "We've lost life support on deck 22. Hundreds of relays are fried, but nothing critical. Hull's intact, no injuries, and weapons are still fully functional, sir." Just then, a command came through from the admiral. "Bring us broadside. I want every cannon firing on those ships." The captain hesitated, a flicker of doubt in his eyes, but he gave the order. As our massive vessel began its slow, ponderous turn, the Ramarsi fired again, scoring a direct hit. "Minor hull charring, sir. No significant damage," came the report. "All 50 broadside cannons," the captain commanded. "Open fire." Rail shots tore through the void, striking true. "Sir, we've damaged them. They're leaking plasma." The admiral's voice cut through the cheer. "Fire our plasma weapons." A stunned silence fell over the bridge. The captain's eyes swept over his crew. "You heard your admiral. Fire." The massive plasma cannons slowly swung to face the incoming Ramarsi vessels. A deep, low hum began to vibrate through the entire ship, a sound we all knew meant the cannons were charging up. Then, with a blinding flash, they fired. A direct hit. One of the enemy ships erupted in a silent, fiery explosion. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. But the captain's voice cut through the celebration. "Back to your stations now. Move us in closer to the other vessel." Suddenly, the scanner technician yelled, "Sir, they're turning away. They're running." The admiral roared, "Give pursuit." Our ship surged forward. "Fire the rail guns." The captain commanded. The prow cannons unleashed another volley. Only 2 of the 14 shots found their mark, but they were critical hits, striking the enemy's engines. We watched as they flickered, sputtered, and failed. Then the scanner tech shouted again, "Sir, they're caught in the planet's gravitational pull. They're going down." The admiral ordered the fleet to orbit the planet and make the ground troops ready. Everyone on the bridge paused. The captain finally spoke up, "Sir, we are landing troops. Why don't we bombard the planet's surface?" The admiral looked straight into the captain's eyes with a steely gaze. "Because, Captain, we need prisoners. We need information. We need to get into that ship." He pointed at the main view screen. "We need to access their computers and find out everything we can about them. If we can download their system, we can learn so much." The captain paused, letting it all sink in, then nodded in agreement. "Order ground troops to their dropships. Send the alert squadrons out. Get Alert 5 on standby." The bridge started buzzing with activity again, and down below, I geared up with the rest of the ground troops, heading for my dropship. This was my first time heading into battle. Butterflies were doing acrobatics in my stomach. The suit formed around me, layer by layer, until finally I locked my helmet in place. As my squad and I stepped out of the armory, the corridor went quiet. Every crew member stopped what they were doing, just to watch us walk by. Their eyes showed a mix of reverence and respect. A few even cheered, shouting, "Go get 'em!" And that little bit of encouragement helped settle my nerves. We boarded the dropship, and as the mechanical arms came down to secure us, it hit me. This was real. My breath hitched, and I started to hyperventilate just a little. The ship lurched into space. Then came that heart-stopping jolt as we began our descent. The engines roared, and soon fire engulfed our view as we screamed through the atmosphere. But no one expected the crashed enemy ship to still be active. They opened fire, and I watched as other dropships were obliterated, entire squads gone before the fight even began. Our fighters screamed past, their cannons tearing into the Ramarsi ship, silencing its guns for good. Then they strafed the ground, carving out a landing zone for us. The pilot's voice boomed over the intercom. "Stand by, 30 seconds to ground." I took a few deep breaths, trying to steady my nerves. The dropship hit the deck hard. The clamps released, and the ramp slammed down. We poured out, scrambling for cover. Enemy fire erupted, but their numbers were thin. We located them, and just as quickly eliminated them. Our first wave was 200 squads strong. We had 20 minutes to secure this perimeter before the next wave touched down. The clock was ticking. Our job was to make sure our brothers and sisters landed safe. Failure wasn't an option. All right, gear up and check your six. We're on the ground, pushing through this dense alien jungle. Command wants us to find any signs of the Ramarsi, local fauna, or basically anything that breathes on this rock. As we started sweeping the area around the dropship to establish a perimeter, things got heated fast. A couple of squads ran straight into Ramarsi patrols. The skirmishes were quick and brutal. Our guys laid down heavy fire, overwhelming them before they could even blink. But it wasn't just the natives we had to worry about. Some of our fire teams stumbled into what looked like a garden from hell. Think Venus flytraps, but they're the size of a man, and they've got a taste for armored soldiers. It was chaos. Watching Marines fight their way out of a Plant-S mouth is something you do and see every day. These things are insane. What a welcome to the neighborhood. Just then, we heard the sonic booms. It was the other dropships, tearing through the sky. We were all in position, locking down the area and securing the Ramarsi ship. That's when we saw them. Hundreds of flaming objects breaking through the atmosphere, shooting down like bullets. In mere seconds, the second wave landed. Hundreds more soldiers poured out of the dropships, some falling into the positions we'd already secured, others scrambling to find new cover. The ground shook with each landing, the air crackling with energy. Reinforcements had arrived, and the real fight was just about to begin. The sheer scale of it was breathtaking, a perfectly executed storm of steel and fire descending from the heavens. We weren't alone anymore. The major on the ground gave the order. The first wave was to move forward, and the second wave, that's us. We were to take up their positions and secure the perimeter. Immediately, everyone, myself included, started moving. A nervous calm hung in the air, thick and heavy. We had no idea what was about to happen next. We began our approach, closing in on the broken, derelict starship half buried in the planet's surface. Cautiously, we searched for any opening, any way inside. Once we found a breach, we slipped in and started the sweep, trying to secure the decks we'd just entered. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every creak of the metal ship sent a chill down my spine. This was just the beginning. We walked in without a single shot fired. It was way too easy. One of the guys piped up, asking if we'd somehow managed to kill them all already. The Major shut him down fast. "Quiet," he barked, "and stay sharp." We all tensed up, the silence suddenly feeling heavy and dangerous. Just then, we heard a series of sonic booms cracking through the atmosphere above. More dropships, the third wave arriving. A wave of relief washed over me. That meant the second wave would be right behind us any second, providing backup. The Major confirmed it. Third wave is touching down. Second wave moves in now. He laid out the rest of the plan. After the third lands, the fourth and final wave would make their descent. The full invasion was about to begin. All right, listen up. We've got several thousand ground troops surrounding this area. Now move forward. Our mission is to secure this ship, find any prisoners, and download everything from their computers. Record their power source, their weapons, every last detail. Let the eggheads back home figure out how they work so we can hunt them down and eliminate them all. Today, we're making history. Just as we rounded a corner, someone screamed, "Contact!" The Ramarsi had barricaded a corridor and opened fire. It happened so fast, not everyone found cover in time. I saw a couple of my squad mates go down, and I just froze. For a second, the whole world stopped. Then my squad leader's voice cut through the noise, yelling at me to keep firing. That snapped me back. I focused on the fight, on taking them down. The Major came up, assessed the situation, and relayed it all back to the Admiral. We had a job to do, and we were going to finish it. The Admiral's voice crackled through the combs. He suspected the Ramarsi were wiping our ship's computers, and we had to stop them. A blockade stood in our way. The Major simply nodded. "Riggs," he barked. "Load a can opener." Riggs pulled out what looked like a rifle grenade, attached it to his barrel, and fired. It sailed over the Ramarsi barricade and exploded behind them, blasting them and their cover to bits. "Push forward." The Major yelled through the smoke. We advanced methodically, corridor by corridor, deck by deck, engaging in sporadic firefights that we quickly won. We finally reached the bridge, but it was buried deep within the ship's core, not at the bow. Strange design. We moved in cautiously, only to find the bridge littered with dead Ramarsi. We checked each one. It seemed the fight for the bridge was already over. But we don't know anything about their physiology to make a proper determination. The Major walked around with a confidence, a certain bravado, and ordered us to clear the bridge of all the bodies. One soldier asked, "What do we do with them?" He just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Pile them up in the corner over there," as he pointed to an empty spot on the bridge. So each one of us began grabbing bodies and tossing them into a pile. Then the Major called command and told them to release the eggheads, have them come down and try to crack their computers. Command acknowledged. The Major then ordered us to continue searching the ship, secure the engine room and their armory. We acknowledged and continued moving deeper into the vessel. This was just the beginning of a very long day. We were walking through the corridor when we found a sealed door. Our squad leader gave the order, so we pulled out our plasma cutters and got to work. It took a while, but we finally broke through. Inside, we found them, the last of the Ramarsi. We surrounded the doorway, weapons ready, but they didn't fight back. They didn't even resist. It was strange. It was like they were just giving up. My squad leader got on the comms to the Major. "Sir, we have several Lev Ramarsi here." The Major's voice came back, crisp and clear. "Good. Secure them. I'm on my way down." So we just stood there, a silent standoff, staring at each other. Finally, the Major arrived, pushing his way through us. He took one look at them and just said, "What ugly mothers." A few of us couldn't help but chuckle before he restored order. A soldier yelled out, "Where do we cuff them?" The Major didn't have an answer. Instead, He just called up 2 more squads. When they got there, he ordered them to secure the prisoners. Then he turned to my squad and said, "You've been the spearhead this entire operation." He ordered us to the rear for a much-needed break. We were so relieved, but the adrenaline was still pumping. The whole thing was just so intense. We started making our way out of the ship, and as we passed each squad, they gave us this look of reverence, of respect. Our squad had led the first major assault against an enemy in centuries, and we made it out with only minor losses. I finally stepped off the ship, and the first thing I saw was a boulder. I reached out and touched it, then gave it a good shove just to make sure it was alive and wasn't going to try and eat me. Once I was sure it was just a rock, I leaned against it and finally started to decompress. Just then, I heard more sonic booms overhead. I looked up and saw flaming streaks heading for the ground. My squad leader came up beside me and said, "More ground troops." I shook my head. "No, those are the lab coats. They're the ones who are going to break into their computers." He just nodded and crouched down next to me, picking up a rock and fumbling with it in his hands. We watched as the dropships landed and the ramps slammed down. Then we saw them, the scientists. They tripped, fumbled, and practically fell out of the ships. You could tell they were incredibly sick from the horrifying, bumpy ride down. One of them staggered up to the major and asked if the ride back up would be just as bad. The major paused for a moment, then said, "No, Doc. It's worse." The scientist stammered. "Worse?" The major just smirked. "Oh, yes, Doctor." Then a wave of homesickness washed over me. I started thinking about Earth, about my family and friends, and a quiet sadness settled in my chest. It's been years since I last saw a blue sky or felt rain on my skin. I couldn't help but wonder how everyone was doing back home, living their lives without me. Were they okay? Did they miss me as much as I missed them? Just as my thoughts began to spiral, the major's voice cut through the haze, sharp and commanding. He was yelling for my squad and a few others to escort the Ramarsi prisoners up to the flagship. I snapped back to reality, shaking my head clear, and walked over to my squad leader. We watched as the Ramarsi were led out. Secured with Kaelum Guard cuffs and wrapped in protective coats, almost like an old-fashioned straitjacket from Earth's history. Time to focus. The mission comes first. Our squad fell in behind the line, heading to the dropship. We helped secure the prisoners and strapped ourselves in. As the ramp doors closed and we lifted off, I was bracing for that usual horrible, bumpy ride back to the main ship, but it never happened. The flight was surprisingly smooth. Once we got close to the carrier, we had a few minutes of fluttering. Then a sudden, violent jolt as the ship locked into the pylon that would pull us back inside. The moment we were aboard, the power cut off and the ramp doors opened. Our dropship was completely surrounded by shipboard security. They escorted the prisoners off to secured holding. We offloaded our gear, headed to the armory, and finally took off our armored suits. Our squad leader told us to wash up. We were done. Then, the captain's voice came over the ship-wide comms, announcing the fleet would remain here for a few more hours before leaving the system. After getting cleaned up, I made my way to the mess hall. The food tasted better than usual, or maybe it was just the relief. Once I was done, I found myself drawn to a viewing port, just staring out into the void. Looking at our planet, a small blue marble surrounded by the fleet, I felt a strange sense of calm. A deep, bone-weary exhaustion, but a good kind of tired. The kind that comes after a hard-won fight. We actually did it. We hit the Ramarsi, and we made them bleed. For the first time, I felt a flicker of real hope. We had a chance, a fighting chance, to push them back for good. But 75,000 ships against an entire empire. The odds were still daunting. I decided to head back to my bunk, needing some time to just lay down, close my eyes, and think it all through. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for the next chapter. Phantom Static, where the phantoms speak through the static.